Hey guys, and welcome to a very special episode of Weekly Critically, where myself and Crash are going to be doing an arena draft for you guys.
Hey guys, super excited to do this today. It's gonna be really fun because Arena is a completely different mode, and we're gonna see how we actually end up drafting and why we pick the cards we pick to try and get, those 9 juicy wins.
Yeah, this series is all about deck building, and this is kind of a game mode that's also all about deck building, albeit in a bit of a strange way. So here we are in the picker. You pick 26 cards, and then you pick your leader, and there's a kind of random distribution of golds, silvers, and bronzes. Our current choices here are Letho Kingslayer, Wild Boar of the Sea, Cayenne, and Sigismund Dijkstra.
And just to note, we will be kind of maybe potentially disagreeing on some of the picks here. The Arena mode is very new, and so people have wildly different expectations and strategies going in. But in general, for me personally, I'm looking at only 2 cards here, and that's DJ and Wild Boar of the Sea.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Not that Letho is terrible. Like, if you end up in a situation where, you get Letho and a bunch of trash golds, like, Letho's decent because they're always going to play a leader at some point. Although his player bronze or silver tactic is, very situational if you don't have it. But I agree that the choice here is between Wild Boar and Dijkstra. Dijkstra just gives you 2 cards from your deck. It's thinning, and it's a power play. Whereas Wild Boar is an engine, because you place this, and then on the left you play something that gets strengthened. It could be a potential res target. It could be an Olgierd or a Morkvarg or a Barbagazi, some carryover, so that you can increase that. And both of these cards are kind of different, good in different ways, is what I'll say.
Yeah, so Wild Boar has a very high potential value, but in general, I think its average value is probably slightly slower than DJ, as well as the fact that it is vulnerable to locks and removal. I think DJ on average is stronger, but sometimes Wild Boar could definitely be, this amazing card. DJ also, I think, as a first pick, isn't the greatest, because if your deck ends up being somewhat more bronze or like low value, then DJ becomes worse as well. Whereas if you draft like 10 golds, then DJ becomes absolutely amazing.
So we'll just have to draft 10 golds. That's what I'm going to say here. And then we go to a bronze. So we have Arbalest. This is basically 9 value because you don't have any spies. We have Redanian Knight, which is 7 value because we have armor removal. Nausicaa Sergeant, which we look at as about 10 value, but it's also weather clear. And then we have Nausicaa Brigade, which is 7 value. Well, 5 value, because, again, you're unlikely to have spying. Here, I'm thinking Nausicaa Sergeant.
Yeah, I think it's just... There's kind of 2 options where we have, like... If by chance we find something like a Huahim or something, the spy removals would be better. But the thing is, you don't want to pick before you have the synergy, and then we have 2 options for what are both essentially weather removal, except one of them is better versus non-weather. So yeah, definitely go for the Nausicaa Brigade.
Yeah, this is the thing, is synergy in Arena is very retroactive. So you're not going to be drafting synergy until you have the target. So, for example, if you're going to draft John Natalis, you wouldn't draft John Natalis until you have tactics cards. So, until I pick something like a reinforcements or a decoy, John Natalis is just bad because it's 6 strength.
Exactly like that. And here I'm just looking for Panther because it is the standalone strongest card.
Yep, I agree. It also gives you removal, which can be good if your opponent is playing engines. And it's just generally nice because people typically play their engines before they row stack. So, there's not a lot of situations where someone will play an engine on a row that has 4 or more units.
And then I think here is where we can like kind of look at a bit of a different situation where the ability to be flexible is extremely useful in Arena. So a card like Death Mode, even though, well, technically it is like 13 strength, just like Manticore Venom, but it doesn't actually remove big cards in the forms of something like Wild Boar of the Sea, as we talked about earlier. It doesn't remove it, whereas Manticore Venom does. The flexibility of what Death Mode can do means that it's actually a very strong pick. And while yes, something like the ceiling of a Hattori might be higher, we don't really have any targets, and we can't guarantee that we'll even have a target for it. So mages in general, I think silver mages are extremely strong in this mode.
Yeah, silver mages are really, really good. You know, things like Abaya, things like Van Hamar, for example, those kind of silver mages are just really great. And the thing is as well, if you end up with Emir as your leader, they're really fun because you can play them to apply weather, then pick them back up and then keep them should your opponent clear the weather or should your opponent play weather. And that's a kind of interesting strategy as well. So I really like the silver mages in this situation. Hey, look at Crone.
Crone. But yeah, I think the option here is either Monster's Nest or Ida, another silver mage. I personally lean towards Ida. While Monster's Nest is, in general, for example, if you look at Constructed, it's very good because it just whatever you need. The thing is, it also synergizes, every single one of its options synergize with your deck in Constructed. Whereas in Arena, pretty much none of the options other than like Barbagazi are actually good, other than very niche scenarios. So I think Ida just generally beats it out.
But if we had both, we could use this to play a Ancient Foglet and then play Ida for Fog. I agree. I think Monster's Nest is a solid pick. If, you end up with like 2 Crones and Cadervine, for example. Like, Monster's Nest is not necessarily bad, but things like Ghoul and stuff are a bit more situational based on what you have in your graveyard. Whereas Ida, again, like we said with the mages, they're just good kind of all round.
And I definitely like it. What do you think? How highly do you actually rate Carryover, Jag?
I really like Carryover because it's really good on blue coin. And you're going to be on blue coin half the time. You could do that strategy some people do on blue coin, which is just dry pass round 1, but we can talk about that in detail a bit later. But I quite like Barbagazi in general just because it gives you that little bit of carryover. It also gives you removal for things like Rot Tosser or Spectral Whale or anything that they kind of throw towards your side. So personally, like, even though it's a 6, I think 6 of carryover, if they can't remove it, is really problematic. And Barbagazi's better than Morkfog and it's better than Olgierd because they reset to about 5, and it's better than Elven War Dancer, which is rampant on the ladder. On the draft ladder, sorry.
Yeah, I definitely like Barbagazi, and if you think about it, if you count the carryover just as normal points, then Barbagazi is actually a 12, whereas the other options are generally here either 11 or, well, that's a 9. So
these are all premium, I just realized. So the premium is based on whether you have a premium version in your collection. So like if you have this card in premium, then you get a version of it. This is not the greatest of picks. I would say the best one here is Fire Scorpion.
So this is something that if I feel very, very, very lucky, I might go for Foglet.
We do have Fog.
We already have one Fog in the deck. But I think what makes me probably just like go against that is, first of all, we only have one Fog. Second of all, we have a DJ. And DJ pulling Foglet would be horrendous for us. So,
I think Fire Scorpion's probably the way to do it. This is at least 10 damage. This is 6, and this is maybe 11. So we'll go Fire Scorpion here. We're getting a lot of bronzes. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we've got Triss, Butterflies, Aguera True Form, just regular Aguera, or Wisper's Tribute, play a bronze or silver organic card from your deck. Look at all these organic cards we have, Crash.
Yeah, that's a lot of organic cards we've got in our deck currently. But yeah, obviously we're looking at True Form or Triss Butterflies, I do believe here.
Yeah, I actually really like Aguera True Form. Aguera, you can get all sorts of good things. You can get Last Wish to find cards. You can get Artifact Compression. You can get Scorch. You can get... Well, Hailstorm's not really great because everyone has loads of golds. But there's a lot of actually good cards you can get from Aguera. You can get the one that does like 2 damage to 10 units, Rock Slide. Like... I actually played this in the cards in the deck I used to get to GM last season, and I think it's a really solid card, and I think people underrate it a lot.
Yeah, it's very good. Like the fact that Create gives you 3 options means you pretty much always get something useful. Even cards like ADC, Last Wish, etc. are good if your deck is good, and we're gonna try and draft so our deck is good. So on general, it's gonna be very high average value. And again, this is kind of the same situation we had before with DJ versus Wild Boar of the Sea. We've got an engine card that has a potential of being very strong, but Butterfly is even more vulnerable to removal, and I am slightly, against picking it if we have a different good option, and we do have a different good option here, so definitely go for the true form.
Yeah, I agree, because she can be removed by Alzur's Thunder, whereas Yennefer Conjurer and Wild Brother Sea both can't, because they have more than 9 health. So I think in that instance, Butterfly is a bit weaker in comparison to the other ones. Anyway, so here we have Ithlin with no specials, boons, or hazards. Geralt, Yrden, Caretaker, and Phoenix. Like, I think Caretaker is the best choice here.
Yeah, Caretaker's easily the best choice. If you think about it, your opponent's gonna have silvers for sure, pretty much, because that's how Arena works, you know? And a silver +4 is a really, really good value, especially because we are expecting mages, and if you think about how much we like mages in our own deck, playing a mage +4 just sounds so good to me.
Yeah, whereas things like Yrden is, you know, situational if they have units to reset. Ithlin, we don't actually have anything to pull with her, and again, Phoenix, like, we have no Draconid. So in terms of synergy, none of these we have synergy with, so it's in this situation, it's kind of an easy choice. So this one's kind of fun. We have Weather Removal, then we have Alba Armored Cavalry, which is an easy engine. So an easy engine is something where the requirements to get it to tick are easy. So in this case, it's like play an ally. Whereas something like a war longship, I think they're called, the ones where your requirement is to discard, that's a terrible engine. That's a bad engine. But here we actually have 2 easy engines, because we also have Redanian Knight Elect. This, you play it and it boosts things next to it. And then we have Demon Warship, which is 11 points. Redanian Knight Elect is easier to... It has better points in terms of the engine because it hits 2 targets, but it's much easier to remove the engine because you only have to deal 2 damage.
Yeah. So while that's true, while I think, like, okay, they can hit Redanian Knight for like 2 and the engine doesn't work anymore, I think I personally actually prefer it over the what is it, Alba
Armored Cavalry.
Yeah, that one. I actually prefer it over it because currently we have no swarming cards whatsoever, so we don't have like a Germain in our deck that would play multiple allies. We don't have Ifrit or like a Draug or anything that would synergize with this. So at best we're just kind of playing it, and then it's gonna gain +1 every turn. And while it's not bad, while I think it's still better than the other 2 options, I don't think it's better than being able to play a Knight Elect immediately for 9, and then it's gonna gain +2 every turn. Even if they hit the armor, then they're wasting damage on armor, so that's another 2 additional points. So it's like you're playing a 9 that boosts by 2, so it's already an 11 on the first turn if they're going to remove the armor, which I think it's really good.
I think that's fair to say. So let's go with the Redanian Knight Elect, and it's not that much of a risk compared to like it's not a huge risk to gain the benefit, is what I'm saying. So here's we're talking about Swarm cards. We then find the poor effing infantry, which would synergize better with the Alba Armored Cavalry. But here, this is a bit of a weird one. I mean, I wouldn't take Blue Mountain Elite, and I wouldn't take Ice Giant because we have no Frost, and this is you need 3 of them. So it's between poor effing infantry, which is just 12, and Slave Hunter, which is 14 if it pays off.
Yeah, PFI is actually a 10, which is honestly, it's a really, really bad bronze. I don't know why they haven't buffed it at all. And Slave Hunter, while it could potentially be lower, I think we have a lot of ways to deal damage on our deck so far. We've got 2 mages, and we've got 2 other cards that deal damage, which just makes it very likely for us to be able to find a 3 or anything along, like, or you know what, even a 2 is better than PFI.
Yep. And it's also quite good against things like a Barbergazi, because if you can get that down to 3 points, then you can steal it. So there are extra benefits to the charm. I agree. I think like this is maybe better on a one-off, but because we have Fire Scorpion, we have Panther, we have Weather, you know, we have a lot of kind of damage dealing cards. The Slave Hunter's not a bad pick. Okay, so Synthesis Blaze, Triss Marigold, Dandelion, Yorvith Meditation.
This is kind of an interesting pick. Now, if we had any type of, you know, like a Witcher's type effect or maybe a Crohn's type effect, then I would very much lean towards Dandelion more so than the other ones. But we don't, and because Arena mode generally doesn't have a lot of thinning, even while Dandelion might, you know, represent 17 points, you don't actually get those 17 points. You know, you don't draw all those cards that you buff every time. So Dandelion is deceptively, you know, I guess deceptively good where it's not actually good, but it looks good.
Yeah, if you have things like Royal Decree and Stefan already, you know, he's actually pretty good there because you're going to be able to find your targets, so those points are quite easily accessible. So then the question becomes, do you want to go for something safe, like Triss Marigold, or do you want to take the risk with Yorvith Meditation? I mean, people are quite regularly row stacking in draft at the moment, so Yorvith is not necessarily terrible, but people usually put their big units on different rows. Like, I put my big units on different rows, which kind of makes him bad, and because we don't have anything to move units between rows, we don't have the option to set him up.
I think on average, like, if I just, what I like doing in Arena is just like looking at expected average value. This is obviously really easy to like think about because it's just 15 every single time, right? And then like for meditation, it's a bit harder to figure out, oh, where exactly is the average, right? Sometimes it might win me a game by being like 24, and sometimes it's probably just gonna lose me the game by being like a 10.
Yeah.
Or worse even. And I personally just kind of like lean slightly more towards this Marigold pick because even though like this won't potentially matter ever, the 1% chance that it does is, I think, good enough to pick it, where hitting an 8 to drop it down to a 3 for a slave driver is really neat to have, just as an additional incentive to pick it.
Yep, and it gives you options for removal because you can play this and then play a second kind of removal if we want to get rid of something like a Villain Chat and Mirth or a Wild Boar of the Sea, for example. This is fun. Wyvern Scale Shield, Ice Troll, Doppler, Werewolf. Doppler will give you a card based on the leader that you pick. That's worth pointing out. The leader determines your faction.
Honestly, every single card except Doppler requires synergy. So it leads me to believe we need to pick Doppler, even though it's not an actual good pick.
Yep, especially when you look at our hand and you look at things like Wyvern Scale, but we have a bunch of 4s, 5s, and 6s. So this is a 4. This is
maybe an 8 if they play a low
and this is a 7. So yeah, I think you got to go for the Doppler, which is not, you know, what you want to say, oh, I'm going to pick Doppler, but it is not terrible. Okay, so here's another kind of awkward one, because we have Skjal, which plays cursed units, but I'm pretty sure we don't actually have any cursed bronze or silvers. We also have the Aguera's Curse, but it's gold. Then we have Doragure, which is kind of random. We have Nature's Gift, but this is just going to draw us Doppler. And then we have Giant Boar, which is super duper RNG.
I wonder what we go for. So, honestly, this pick overall is not great. We're looking at Skjal being a really strong card if we had any cursed units, but we don't have any yet. And this is, I think, where like you can kind of deviate, where you can choose, okay, if your draft, like for example, currently isn't looking great, if you've drafted maybe 15 or 16 very kind of even bad cards, if you'd call them, you might just go for Skjal and hope you high roll into more cursed units and then actually kind of like save your draft potentially. But I think if you've got generally okay cards, which I do believe we have, we've got 2 Silver Mages, we've got Carryover, we've got Removal, we've got generally good average value cards along with some actually great goals in Caretaker DJ, I think what we do is just take the safe pick, the one that will never lose us a game. And I think that's kind of just Doragure here.
Yeah, it's a shame because Beasts, basically, a lot of the time you end up with like Harpy, Roach, and, you know, basically there's a lot of bad beasts is what we'll say, or there's a lot of beasts which are kind of thinning beasts. Although you could get Draconid, so you could get Ogfist, and I quite like Ogfist in this kind of game mode.
And I think here we just look at the value of the cards, because there's nothing special about them. None of them are really engines. None of them are, you know, amazingly synergistic, and then you just pick the one that has the highest points, being Bearmaster.
Yep, I mean, if you had something like a T-Bor, for example, then Ancrate Warcry becomes a bit more lucrative, because that does give you a different number of points. But again, like, we don't really have any synergies with any of these, so Bearmaster's just kind of solid. So, Milena, Neckarat, hey look, there's Moonlight. So we should have taken that Werewolf. Shayla or Runestone. I think Shayla's currently bugged. Shayla is actually a good card if you've drafted a lot of specials. Shayla's good. If you haven't drafted like 3 or 4 specials, I wouldn't go for Shayla because the chances of having both in your hand are kind of low. But I think at the moment she's bugged, so I wouldn't recommend her, at least this week, until they fix that. Because at the moment, she doesn't draw a card. So you play 2 cards and then you're sad because you have card disadvantage.
So this is actually a pretty interesting pick. I personally really like... I mean, I like both Malena and Nekurat. They're both very good cards. Malena is a bit more instant value, whereas Nekurat can be... If you think about it, if your opponent plays Weather and then you play Nekurat and then they don't remove, you know, a Beast from that row or Moonlight from that row, it's gonna be, you know, at least 14 points of value while also removing Weather. And that's an amazing silver.
Yeah, because
Malena
Moonlight buffs vampires. Some people don't realize this. Moonlight buffs vampires as well as beasts, so Nekurat boosts in Moonlight. Like, I've seen people have Nekurat and then open it, like, play it with Blood Moon. Or, like, not play him into Moonlight. It's just, I don't understand.
And we actually have a few other, like, we do have 2 other beasts.
We have Doragare.
Kind of. Doragare is a beast and Panther is a beast.
And
So we
the
kind
Bear
of
of Bearmaster, is he not a beast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. It is. So we've got additional slight synergy. On the other hand, we also have synergy with Malena, where because we do have quite a bit of like damage in our card, so we can set up something down to 5 or a 4. Same with Slave Master. I don't know. This is completely a toss up. I think either one is fine. They're very close.
I agree. I mean, you could even, if you're feeling adventurous and you have alchemy synergy, you could go Runestone. Runestone's not terrible. You know, you get a choice and situationally they're good. But I agree that these 2 are better. The only thing I will say about Malena is she's very hard to play round 1 because she's no tempo. You play nothing. Yeah. Like, if you have Isengrim, that changes things because then you can target draw her and make sure you get that tempo. But as it is round 1, if you play her and your opponent just passes, then she doesn't flip. So I would say Nekurat's a bit safer. And because we have the synergy with all the beasts in the deck, I quite like that as a pick.
For sure. I think Malena is that's definitely true. It's very risky if you're blue coin. If you're red coin, however, you can just kind of play Malena. If your opponent passes and they've played like a Morgvarg or something, bam, you deal, you know, 5 damage to it and you steal it. And that's... If that happens, you probably win the game, but I think the chance of that happening is really low. So yeah, just go for Nekurat. It's a safer pick, I think.
Okay, so Barkley. Do we even have to? This is actually a really awkward one, I would say. So we have Barkley, Scorch, Pavetta, and Pavko. Hey, Crash, tell me how you feel about Scorch in Arena.
Well, actually, I don't dislike it, considering our draft so far. Generally, you know, you want to draft really high units and just play as many points as you can. But honestly, like, most of our units, like, at least 60% of them are just cards that deal damage or, you know, play something else. So we're not really going tall ourselves. While Scorch is really bad because your general strategy is going tall, the other cards are literally a 2-point silver, a 3-point silver, and a 5-point silver.
Exactly. So, in this situation, I don't think we have a choice. I think Scorch is risky when you have Dijkstra. Like, I've Dijkstra'd Scorched myself, but it's just something you have to be aware of when you choose to play Dijkstra, that you could burn yourself. And in this situation, we have no dwarfs. Returning the lowest bronze or silver to our decks is just kind of eh. And we have no items, so Scorch is kind of the one you have to go for here.
The best thing is, like, you don't want to do this because it's just generally bad to pick before you have synergy, but dwarves are some of the best bronzes that you can get. Generally, if you see a dwarf, you're most likely going to pick it just because it's, on average, very good value. But I do believe Scorch is just better.
Look at this fun card. So, Sirenova is terrible in draft. You need to have exactly 2 copies of each bronze card in your starting deck. Do we have 2 copies of any of our bronze cards? No. So, nope. This is not good. Letho, toggle to units lock on the road, then drain all their power. I mean, he's good with Scorch.
No. No. Don't even try.
Okay, so then we have Maruna or Leo. Leo is kind of safe, but all of our cards are kind of low value, so keep that in mind. Like, you have to reveal something. Maruna is rolling the dice, but if you can bait out their removal, then I think she's quite good.
I think if you, definitely. If you've drafted a lot of engines, I think Maruna's value just goes, like, really high up there because, first of all, it's a card that can win you the game, and second of all, because you already have a lot of engines, they're very likely to use all the removal by the time you play it. So I think it's a very good card to pick on average if you've got engines in your deck.
We have one engine.
We have
wait,
exactly
two.
one.
We have Necrod as well.
It's kind of an engine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Leo Bonhardt's slightly better.
This is just like control. Like everything we have just deals damage.
Slight synergy. We've got a Fire Scorpion.
Oh, look, there's a dwarf. Oh yeah, we have synergy with the Fire Scorpion, of course. So I really like Yarpen. I think having units with resilience is just useful. It's the same case of Barbagazi. And this is where actually drafting Barkley would be really good because he gives you that. We still, we actually do have, oh no, Bearmaster's not cursed. The bear that he spawns is cursed. We still don't have cursed. Locks are okay, but we have so much removal that locks are kind of situational. And Milena requires them to stack in a certain way. So I think the best pick here is Yarpen.
Yeah, carryover in general is just extremely valuable. If they can't remove it, you're essentially just saying, hey, remove this or lose the game. If they remove it, they're just kind of trading cards, and it's not like you've lost much. But if they don't remove it, you get such a big lead in the game. I think cards like, Yarpen, cards like Barbagazi, as we've seen, more Gargle geared, even Oakfist and whatnot, are really good in Arena.
Hey, we got our second bad bronze, option. So after Doppler, we've got no Frost. We have no Spies. Oh no, we have Dijkstra.
Ah, the DJ. That's, I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We have single copies of things. And
So
we
that's a
have,
10.
2 elves. I think, Sentry is the best choice here just because it's a 10.
Sentry's a 10, yeah. I could definitely see it. Again, you could try and Hyro, but I think Sentry's just a safer pick.
Especially with only, 6 more cards? Okay, so, reinforcements. Houndsnout, False Siri, and Fringilla. So, reinforcements targets bronze or silver soldiers, machines, officers, or supports. So, there's an officer. There's a machine. There's a soldier. There's a soldier. So we have, we have quite a few soldiers, for example. Yarpen's also a solger. Can target
I think the reason I like reinforcements so much more than something like a fake city or, a Herald Houndsnout here is just the fact that it can hit Yarpen is huge, right?
Yep.
It's targeting your, one of your best turn 1 cards, so definitely like it more than the other picks. And Fringilla is just a...
If only if only we drafted Letho.
Oh my god.
Okay, I agree here, reinforcements. The thing is with Ciri is she's really susceptible to, locks and consume. You play a Ciri and they have Barbagazi, so they just eat her.
And it's very sad when that happens.
Ooh. Hey, look, it's Shillard.
How much do you like Shillard?
I actually quite like Shillard. I think he's really good against Stefan, and Stefan is really common. He's... worst case, you both drew a card and you play 9. Best case, you can trade something like a Doppler for an Aguera. I think in draft mode, because people typically draft good stuff, but also people kind of have random stuff, he's good because... So in Constructed, Shillard's not great, because you'll draw something that synergizes with their deck, right? So you're not going to take something that synergizes with their deck. Whereas in this mode, if you look at our cards, nothing here is inherently bad by itself.
Yeah.
So that means that Shillard in this kind of game mode is much better.
I think it's also very high variance. Now, while if they play Stefan, you just play Shillard and you gain a massive advantage. I think it's very high variance. So I would definitely recommend picking it if you're, new to Arena. I think it will definitely win you certain games. But personally, I kind of value, just basically outplaying, quote-unquote, my opponents. And I think cards like Aguara are really good for that, True Form, because they're just average good cards and they're very strong. So personally, I tend to deviate away from cards that have a lot of variance in the form of, Shillard.
I think that's fair to say. Shillard, he's also quite good if people run Infernal. They put a... a 6 strength dude on the top of your deck, then you play Shillard and give them the 6 strength dude. It's kind of a fun card in different ways, but I can understand what you're saying, and I do think we do have good choices. Aguera, good choice. Actually, him also not bad, because you can use it to create a silver unit from your opponent's starting deck. And again, if you look at our silver units, the only bad one that we have here is Doragare, and because people have more silvers, you're likely to see better choices. But I mean, what do you think about Aguera versus him?
So, if we had any silver card in the deck, I think like immediate Heim. But I think on average, like a silver unit from their deck is probably worse than a random spell. Probably. I can't be 100% certain on it though, because spells, as far as thinning ones go, they don't actually find anything amazing in their deck either. So I could go either way, and maybe it's the 1 point difference that like Heim is 1 point bigger, so just pick Heim. Yep. I don't know.
The thing to be aware of here, though, is with Aguera, if we pick this, we can't draft Shoop, and Shoop is probably one of the strongest cards in Arena.
So that's actually a.
So I think that because we already have an Aguera, I think him is better to pick in case we see Shoop in these next 4 cards. Because if you've picked this, then you're going to be like kicking yourself, basically.
I wouldn't do this if the other gold was very bad. Like if we're looking at, you know, cards like Letho, cards like Roche Merciless, you know, Seri Nova. I wouldn't do this if those were the other picks. I would still pick True Form. But because the other pick is just about equal value, we can do that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So here we have Cleaver, Houndsnout, Mahakam Horn, Nivellen.
We have no real way to trigger Houndsnout. Horn is okay, it's not amazing, it's fine. It actually has both uses available to it. We can, you know, strengthen the Barbegasi by 7 if we do want to, or the Yarpen. Cleaver is really strong early in the game on round 1, and we can actually reinforce it out. So it makes me slightly more, you know, favorable towards it, but I think I could lean either way. And Nivellen is just kind of a 10-point silver because we have no movement synergy.
Yeah, I mean, we do have some weather with Deathbolt and Ida, so he does work a little bit with that if you play weather, you can then, you know, throw things onto that row. I think like you could go either way with Cleaver or Nivellen, but I'd argue that realistically you want to be using your reinforcements on Yarpen. So then I personally think Nivellen's a better pick. He's also cursed, really? Which means you can cheer him with him.
Oh, he is cursed. Okay, that is actually a big enough reason, I think, to take it. Yeah, I didn't realize it was cursed. I think I would actually go for Horn over Nivellen otherwise if we didn't have Heim here. Honestly, creating a random dwarf isn't bad at all. If you think about it, as I said, dwarves on average are very good value. At worst, they're an 11. At best, they're, you know, movement out of weather, a 12-point unit, or, you know, maybe even 14 in the form of Pyrotechnician, or they're a Yarpen.
I think that's fair. Like, Horn is not inherently bad. It just comes to whether you want, like, thinning, you know, and thinning is kind of good. You could go either way here.
Yeah, I actually like Nivellen just because the fact it's cursed, as I said.
Okay, so Mahakam God, Frost, Demon Worship, and then a second Redanian elect.
I quite like the elect. Like, if we want to save this draft, if the draft isn't looking great, maybe we pick just the average 11-point play just in case we find Troop, but we only have 2 picks left, so I think I'd rather lean towards just picking the best card.
Yep.
This is definitely, for sure, up to choice, though.
Yeah, I think so. If it was a case between this and, say, another engine that we don't already have, I would take the other engine. You know, like in the case with him versus Aguera, it makes sense to take him. But here, I think we're going to take this. As soon as we do this, here comes the Shoop. Oh, it's okay. It's another bronze.
And here is an example of an engine that just isn't good to almost ever pick, because it requires synergy for it to actually get value, whereas cards like Redanian Knight Elect just gain value by themselves. So cards like Dragoon, Knight Elect, you know, Reinforced Trebuchet are very strong, whereas cards like this Longship that you need to activate, you know, repeatedly to get value out aren't as good. Same for Mangonels, for example.
Yeah. So here, typically, I would say go Slave Hunter, but because we have Nekarat and it's cursed, I quite like Alpha Werewolf. And it's a beast.
Yeah, it's cursed, it's a beast, you know, it's pretty damn good. Even on, like, value-wise, like, we're looking at maybe 12 points from Slave Knight, Slave whatever he is. So yeah, I think we just take the Alpha Werewolf here.
So I think we rolled pretty high in terms of bronzes. So we have Mahaka Marauder, Lamia, but I feel like we're playing Moonlight rather than Blood Moon. I also think Lamia is just a bad card. Cyclops is okay because it gives you removal, or Barnard, where we can target draw Doppler.
Yay! No, I love Cyclops in Arena. It's just such a flexible card as far as removal goes, because it can remove pretty much anything you want while still being, you know, an 11-point card. So I think it's just strong.
Yep, I agree. So here's our leader, and the choice is Francesca, Dagon, or Unseen Elder. See, we should have taken that Foglet. I really like Francesca. I mean, I think Unseen Elder is generally bad. Unless they play something boosted, you're not going to see value out of him. Dagon is okay. Like, this is kind of like good, okay, bad is how I would rate these three in Arena.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I actually think all of these, personally, I think all of these are just generally decent cards. If we had anything we were very much wanting to draw, like something like a...
Shoot.
If we had, like, the Sabbath, for example, Francesca value goes insanely high. We don't really have that type of card in our deck, so we, you know, it's a bit less good. We're just looking at draw gold, right? +3, but play a 7. I like Dagon personally, but it's not amazing either. And as he said, Unseen Elder is...
He's too situational.
You know, not great.
Yeah. I think, like, if you had Sabbath or Shoop, like, 100% Francesca becomes auto-pick. But the thing is with, like, weather, we have some weather anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it's, like, that big a deal. I would definitely go for Francesca.
And this gives us, you know, what we need should we need it. You know, if our opponent plays something big, or we want to target draw carryover, or we want to target draw certain cards for thinning, then Francesca's really nice for that. And we can also always find a gold when our deck is, you know, not hugely gold. Like, we've got 6 golds, 8 silvers, and 12 bronzes, so we went heavy on the bronzes, which is kind of unfortunate. So then having something like Francesca to guarantee some of your golds, I think, is pretty nice.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because some of our golds actually do synergizes with our other bronzes or, you know, silvers in the form of Haim, as well as, like, Leo Bonhard. Say we draw, you know, our Fire Scorpion, then Bonhard becomes really, really nice to have.
For freedom.
Yep, so we're going to play one arena game with this deck, because drafting took a little while. So we're going to play one game, and we'll just kind of showcase the deck. And typically, when I mulligan, I'm just throwing bronzes in order from, like, worst to best. So in this situation, for example, I would throw Doppler first. This gives us a random elf, or dwarf. Then I would throw Werewolf, because we don't have synergy.
I think I might actually toss Doppler first, but yeah, that's generally... I would toss both either way.
Doppler and then Werewolf is where I would go. And then... I mean, we have 2 weather clears, so probably Sergeant.
I think, yeah, we can... what is our opponent's leader? It's...
Hillock.
Okay, a random... Yeah, no. We could toss away the Cyclops. We have removal as well. We've got 2 Thunders.
Yeah, and a Scorch and a Guerra. So I think that's also a fair option. We got reinforcements.
And honestly, if you look at it, we don't actually want to toss our cards away because we want them for the Danian Night Elect.
So, do you want to remove this straight off the bat? I mean, we can. We also have Scorch, so we can always remove it. In which case, we could play, like, Bearmaster to set up our own engine. Like, how do you feel about kind of opening in this situation?
Honestly, I just like removing it straight up. We'd most likely just use Death Mold over Ida because fog is better than rain.
Yep, I totally agree with that. Like, in terms of their weather, she has slightly better weather than he does. So that kind of removal is more or less fine. And then we get a body on the board anyway for Night Elect, so that's kind of okay as well. The other thing we probably want to look to do is try and get Yarpen a little earlier. Especially if we can do it whilst keeping tempo, having won the coin flip.
Yeah. So if we can play Yarpen here, I would probably tend to just play it immediately, because then we could immediately start buffing it. On the other hand, we could also just remove his second engine.
Yeah, because we have the coin, like, basically if you win the coin flip, playing carryover is less important, because you can kind of win on even anyway. Whereas if you lose the coin flip, if you can play carryover, you can usually guarantee that they can't dry pass you, which is kind of how you win. How do you feel about passing on blue coin?
Dry passing, I think it's a completely valid strategy. I like doing it in case my deck either has, if my deck has enough removal to deal with engines, and if my deck doesn't really have any carryover, then I like just dry passing, because the best case scenario is winning down a card, you know, while the worst case scenario is losing uneven where my opponent has more carryover than me, and that's just, you know, that's game losing.
Yep. So, do you think we should score Shock Fist?
We could find, like, we could toss a card away, go for Leo Bonheart, but yeah, we could also just Scorch it.
We don't have anything big enough to reveal with Leo.
Oh, that's actually true. Never mind. Yeah, I think we have to Scorch it then, eh?
This guy is gonna be so sick of us killing all of his engines.
Now we just have to find 3 more mages in our hand somehow, and just keep removing them. It's okay, we still have... Oh my...
So, we have Aguera. We can target draw. Let's see what we have in the deck to target draw in terms of removal.
Cyclops doesn't do it right now.
No.
But Cyclops, along with like a Fire Scorpion, would remove it. We could... You know what we could do?
What could we do?
Because Aquist is 4 turns, like...
Oh,
we
damage him and then...
And then Slave Driver.
But then we'd have to draw... Wait, Slave Driver we can draw with this, right?
But we have Reinforcements and we have Francesca. It just means that we're not using Francesca on a gold.
So we'd need to deal 5 damage.
Yeah. Fire Scorpion.
Yeah, or Triss.
Yeah. Oh, we can go for Triss. Okay. I'm okay with that then. It's risky, but it could potentially just absolutely win the game. Like,
it's also fun, and like worst case, we then just try and high roll Aguera and kill it.
Yeah.
So it.
If nothing else, like, you know, we still have like Alzur's Thunder off of Aguara.
Oh my.
And even if it triggers where, okay, now I think we just go for the Aguara, right?
Yeah, and then if we get close to it triggering, we can always pass. Is the other thing.
Now Alzur's Thunder gets down to... Oh! No, Alzur's it, right?
Oh, so that we
We
can
can
steal
still
it.
Slave Driver it.
Yeah, but does he have anything else we might pull? No, he doesn't currently.
Slave
And then we can
Driver-
always kill it with
no, not
Triss.
Slave
Yeah, we
Driver.
can always kill it with Triss. You're correct. No, I see what you're saying. Slave Hunter.
Slave Hunter, yes. I think he targets, right? Doesn't he?
Slave Hunter is charms a bronze enemy with 3 or less power. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I guess
not
it's
a
not a
random,
random
right?
bronze enemy. Yeah.
Wait, it's a bronze enemy.
Oh shit! Oh, it's for fun. We'll kill it. We'll kill it.
Well, we'll kill it. We'll kill it. It's fine.
that shows how often we play Slave Hunter.
Yeah, Slave Hunter is a very common card in Constructed, so definitely, you know, plan your strategy around the card you've not played
So
once.
artifact compression would have been better there. Is what we've learned.
Well, it both deals 9, but now we have to...
Do we pass here?
Okay, it would have 100% been better. Yeah. Yeah, we can just pass.
That's okay. We both made the same mistake. And it's, as long as you've learned from your mistakes. Like, I'm never going to make that mistake again. Ever.
Yeah. The big thing is we don't actually lose much because we are a red coin. We're not, you know, very hardly punished here because our opponent can either, you know, dry pass here and then we just have 6 carryover going into round 3, or even 8 carryover actually.
What do you want to throw?
Is it weird if I say Barbegazi?
No, I agree. I think carryover is way less useful round 2 than it is round 1.
It's just kind of additional points round 3, which is good, but it's not insane, you know. And we still have, in the case of a dry pass, we still have Yarpen.
Yep, so one thing to remember with Leo is that he works on base power. So I've made this mistake before, so I'm going to point it out now. Is that Leo, you reveal a card, then deal damage from its base power. So Triss wouldn't be a 13, she would be an 8. So that's just the thing I want to kind of preface this with is...
Yeah, let's not make another Slave Hunter error. But
we
hey,
got
that's
synergy.
that's a nice 10.
So...
And I think this is honestly an okay hand. Potentially a Bearmaster toss.
But that gives us a beast for the Moonlight, which I don't hate.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
we have
I think either one is
Teamster and
fine.
stuff, so I think it's kind of alright to hold this. So set
And
up
it's
the
a
Moonlight.
proactive play, right? I think I would kind of try and at least for a few turns wait on the Moonlight because we have other engines that that give us 2 per turn.
So Night Elect.
Night Elect, yeah, I think is an okay opener, and then we can play the second Night Elect.
Yeah,
right?
they can be cozy buddies.
Yeah.
Our opponent has played 1 gold.
Mm-hmm.
We have played
Maybe his
1
whole
gold,
hand is gold
so
now.
we'll see. Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, maybe.
It might be.
Yeah.
He might have high rolled all of the golds, and we're just sitting here with none. I look drought. So,
Moonlight.
yep.
This is why we don't play it immediately.
So, how do you feel about row stacking?
Yeah, just a row stack, right? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? He has Hailstorm? Oh god, he has Hailstorm, doesn't he?
Maybe.
And then to replay it, he's just gonna play a Guara True Form for another one.
Oh, that would be...
Yeah, but no, I think I really like at least somewhat waiting on Moonlight because if we can also clear Weather along with it, it's really strong.
Yeah, as it is, we just got super weathered.
Yeah. What do you think about like using DJ right now?
I mean, we've mulliganed the Nausicaa Sergeant, so based on how mulliganing seems to work, he's actually kind of likely. I don't mind it, honestly. I think like there's nothing we can do. Like a lot of these are dealing damage, and we don't really want to deal damage anyway.
I mean, on the other hand, we could first kill the Van Hemer in case we draw Caretaker, right? He hasn't played the Silver engine yet, or we can steal the big Aukvist.
Yeah.
Would that be better?
I think the Aukvist is nice. I don't think like I think it's worth taking the risk with Dijkstra because there's no great ways of killing Van Heemar. We're gonna be unless we play Triss, I guess actually.
Yeah, but that's fine. We just play DJ.
I mean, actually, I don't know. I actually quite like doing this because it does make life a bit safer. Because it is what like 5 turns of weather, so this is actually not hugely terrible. And because like you said, we have Caretaker, so it gives us more chance of clearing the weather.
It also, you know, it makes us not have to hard row stack, so less punishable, right? It makes us much less punishable.
Yeah. On the flip side, though, we have 32 points and he has none. So although he has weather, like...
We're looking okay, and we still have, you know, quite a few strong plays here.
Let us sing the song of steel.
Okay, so this is where we play the Dijkstra.
Lots of prior experience.
Nivellen.
Worked with idiots my whole life.
And what's the other card? I don't see it.
Barbergazi.
Not the greatest.
No, I mean, it's 12 points.
It's 6 points, right?
Well, total 10 and 6 minus 4.
Oh, I see, yeah.
What do you eat? I guess we eat the 1.
No, don't eat the 1, because the 1 gets
actually, that's true.
by 1.
And the 3, well... So
I think you have to eat the 3.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you play either too big a card or you set up like a Gigni or a Scorch.
Yeah, because the thing is, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the thing that gets hit after the Neckarat is this Night Elect. So that then we can play this Night Elect and not have his armor get removed.
Definitely.
So that's the kind of thought process going on there in terms of what you eat.
And we can't really eat the 7 either because that's also another 13 on the board. So that's a bit scary to you know, have happen. Yeah. I think here is where you just kind of have to start playing potentially a Bonheart, actually. Because this is still 50-50 as to what it's gonna hit.
What do you mean?
Well, if you play the Night Elect now, there's a potential it hits the one.
Oh, I see. So we should wait for this one to get hit. That makes sense.
So I think Bonheart to just play a 17 here is...
Is it not safer to play the Bearmaster? Oh no, because then the 1 will get hit. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because the Bearmaster is really good to play later because, you know, it reduces weather damage by 1. But it's not like... The thing is, I don't think we're gonna need more than 5, you know, removal anyways, because the only potential removable card that he might still play is Miruna, which 5 damage is good enough to deal with. Yep.
And so the reason I split the damage there is just in case he has something like a Mandrake, where if you put lots of damage onto something like a Sarah, they can then heal it all up and boost. Hey look! Opponent connection lost. Isn't this a common sight in Arena? I've never seen this screen before.
This can happen at Gwent? I've never seen it happen.
Yeah, so the servers with Arena feel really unstable. I don't know if it's just because they've had like a rush of people coming into play, or if it's the Arena servers are really unstable, or if it's not even CDPR's fault, it's somewhere down the pipeline in terms of who provides their servers. But this is very, very common at the moment in Arena, so bear that in mind when you're spending your ore in order to enter, that you... And this person probably isn't disconnected, just to kind of clear this up. This has happened to me, where I've lost games because of this. Like, it just sometimes happens. And it does kind of... It's quite annoying.
Yeah. On the flip side, when we look at the game, I think we're actually very good. As far as the position was, we were 35 points ahead on even cards, right?
Yeah.
So we weren't... Or was it down a card? We
No,
weren't
uneven.
looking that horrible, right? Because... Yes, we take, what, 6-8 more damage from, weather. We still had good plays. We had, a 13-15 point play in the Night Elect. And then we had, another 12 and another, 10 point play.
Yeah, I think our plays were solid, and we were likely to do fairly well there anyway. But that's the thing. This does happen, so just bear that in mind when you're going into Arena. Things to mention is that if you join Arena or try and play Arena before the 5th of March, you'll get 3 free runs, so you can play 3 for free. Other things to mention is that Topdeck has a picker, so if you're not entirely sure what to pick, and don't see these cards that we told you to pick, then we'll have a link to the Arena picker. It's like a spreadsheet in the description, and it's got ratings for all the cards, and it's got reasons why you would pick them. It doesn't take into account synergy, which you saw us talking about here with things like him and cursed units, for example. But all in all, I think it is a very useful tool.
Especially for the first few picks when, you don't have a deck yet. You can just kind of go by the tier list and just pick whichever one is the highest. I would also like to mention that each one of us also have our own Arena full completed runs on our YouTube channel. So if you want to check out a full run, you can go to either Jaggerous or mine's. Or my YouTube channel and check those out too.
Yep, and we'll have links for those in the description as well, along with things like social media and Twitch and stuff. If you want to catch us live streaming Gwent, you can find us playing Arena and whatnot on Twitch. But this has been the weekly Critically. It's a bit different because we basically didn't see the point in critiquing a deck when it was patch day, and also Arena's out and this is deck building, so this kind of seemed a bit fun. But if you want to submit a deck, a ranked deck, to have feedback, then there'll be a link in the description below to our Discord where you can post your deck, and then me and Crash will try it out and maybe make some suggestions for improvements. And thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next video. Bye!